Greetings, brothers and sisters. I have a video that is presently being reviewed. It was from 2 days ago. So Sunday was Friday. That should have been my Friday video here. But they yellowed it, and I think it's because I used the word smash possibly in the title. I don't know. It's tough to see with YouTube. But it's Fetterman, Smash, and a bunch of stuff to do with Alec. And so hopefully that video is up before this one. They might be up both the same day. Just kind of a sucky thing with YouTube. Having some problems with my Instagram account as well. Hopefully that'll be resolved by the time you're seeing this. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. But let's start here with Hilaria Baldwin. They've got a bunch of stuff to do with JoJo Magooe and some other stuff I can't remember. And so Hilaria, well, this is her. She's, well, this guy's wearing a mask for some reason. And this is self-explanatory.
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to say. You're not going to ask me questions. I'm going to tell you.
She's going to say what she's going to say. They're not going to ask her a question. She's going to say what she's going to say. The internet's outraged. This woman's got it too. She's getting it. The internet is outraged over her ever-increasing Spanish accent, right?
Got it.
Okay? I want you guys to realize that we have 7 kids. And you being here
She's got 7 kids, her and Alec.
to escort them to school.
You were escorting them. How nice are those paparazzis? How nice, Hilaria.
To be there when they come home is not good.
Fake, 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 fake.
It's just not good. It's maybe bad even.
So on a human level, you guys
Wait, on a human level.
know I'm not going to say anything to you.
So she's saying on a human level, she's not going to say anything to you. Well, what level will you? Are you going to telepathically communicate with them as an alien? And we know that not to be true because I'll show you the other press conference they did. And then Alec went and did an interview where he deposed himself and he made things worse and just all these other things, right? They will talk. They can't help but talking. They love social media, and she'll be talking about this. They just never just not talk. They just do. Alec hurt himself as much as he possibly could by just talking. Plus her Spanish accent. You know, she's a white girl, right? Well, she's admitted to being a white girl, Caucasian. And that she is, her parents are from England and Scotland, right? And so her Spanish accent keeps on getting worse the longer she lives in America. Like, why is that? Her native language is Bostonian, right? She should talk like a Boston person, but she has this other accent instead. And people are,
You know that. So please leave my family in peace and let this all play out. Okay? So let my kids come home and you stay away from them because they ask me,
they ask her,
Mommy, what are these people doing? And it's a very hard thing as a mom to try to explain.
No, it's not. Here, this is what you say. Well, your dad accidentally or otherwise shot a coworker and she's dead. And I have been faking an accent and appropriating a culture for a while. And your dad mocked a former president and, kind of made a spectacle of himself. And I'm an embarrassment to everything. And I got a podcast about witches and covens, which is called Witches Anonymous. And so, yeah, and we're famous. And there's these parasites. In a way, I agree with her that there's this parasitic, the paparazzi doing this, and even these people here, right? These are just New Yorkers coming up and getting in on the action. It's just parasitic, right? The person taping Britney Spears, I don't respect any of that stuff. There's a parasitic element to the paparazzi, but it's part of being famous. And she was on one of those Entertainment Tonight shows, whatever it was. She was a host. Like she published her own books. She went on interviews, and then she really promoted her own Instagram account. And Alec was trying to get her up to 1 million followers for her birthday. She really loves her Instagram, and now she's doing her own podcast. And Hollywood Reporter, she was like, she she got paid as like she was part of their staff for a while. She was on her own little show thing. So, they wanted to be famous, and it's good when it's good, but when it's not good, it's like this.
So please, go home.
So before that, I got another thing to show you from CNN on her. There was this press conference. I want to roll let's just roll the first meme, my original meme of her and Alec together. And then we'll do the other press conference.
Consider the source.
Oh, she's a white girl? Yes, I am a white girl. I am a white girl.
So, for example, my wife's on the phone with her hairdresser or her friend. She's like, really? Okay, I can't wait to see you. That's going to be great. Fantastic. What time? 12 o'clock? My wife is from Spain. Mm-hmm. And she said, blah, blah, blah.
We have very few ingredients. We have tomatoes. We have, how do you say it? Cucumbers. We have red pepper. We have, of course...
It's not easy, and I think part of it is that I'm in shape before I have a baby, and then I stay active when I'm pregnant, and I'm not trying to stay thin, I'm just trying to keep my circulation going and stretching and keep my muscle tone up, and then we're having a baby. It was a surprise, a wonderful surprise.
And one time at band camp.
It was a surprise, a wonderful surprise.
And one time at band camp.
It was a surprise, a wonderful surprise.
Well, there was a scream I heard, which is the scream that's normally reserved if there's a spider in the house on Long Island. I'm not exaggerating.
So the first part of the book is philosophy on how to live very namaste. I have 3 little babies. I live kind of a crazy life between work and them and everything else. So it's just, how to stay calm and centered and deal with things that are coming at you. Then we could talk about food.
I'm going to kick your culo.
It's gonna kick my culo.
I'm going to kick your culo.
It's gonna kick my culo.
Honey. Honey, this is Governor Christie's fleece. This is the fleece that everyone's been looking for. Did you steal the governor's fleece?
I cannot tell a lie. I stole it. I'm his biggest fan.
I admire Governor Christie, too. New Jersey State Police. Consider the source.
Oh, she's a white girl? Yes, I am a white girl. I am a white girl.
I've been ordered by the Sheriff's Department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions about the...
Okay, so that's not true, or at least he violated that because he went out. He said he was ordered by them not to answer any questions. And then he went and did that horrible interview where he deposed himself, not just for criminal investigation, but for a lawsuit, right? And so this is shortly after he shot Helena Hutchins. But then he's going to go on ABC with George Stephanopoulos, and he's going to do an interview. And it's going to hurt him, and then he's just going to talk about this and play himself as the victim and just, you saw it all.
Investigation. I can't. It's an active investigation in terms of a woman died. She was my friend.
She was my friend, and I shot her.
She was my friend. The day...
He's getting his own Spanish accent. He's been doing this for a while. Like, he's getting his own Spanish accent. I got some memes of this. He talks to a dogs like this. And then there's other times. You saw some of it in that last, that first meme. I might as well use these memes while I still can, right? But here's all the times that, I've seen him speak in a Spanish accent. And now he's doing it. You can see he's got a slight Spanish accent as he talks to these reporters.
Leonela! Leonela! Basta! Las palitas, basta! Las palitas, suficiente! Ay, ay, ay.
See.
Itana idama ben. Itana! Itana, come. Dama! Itana! Itana! No! Come! Itana, come! Itana, hush!
I'm being upstaged by a dog. That's where my career is at right now.
Itanta! Come!
Ay, ay, ay.
See. It's been a little weird. Well, here we go. Oh, good girls. Hey, Tanta, come and sit, baby. Hey, Tanta, come. Hey, Tanta, come. That's my cue. Shh. Sit. Come here. Hey, Dama, come.
The day I arrived in Santa Fe to start shooting, I took her to dinner with Joel, the director.
And then I shot both of them.
We were a very, very, excuse me.
Excuse me. Excuse me. She's giving him the evil eye.
We were a very, very,
And she backs away.
well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible...
And then literally shooting happened on the set. He just has a problem with the word shooting. Let's roll the shooting things that he talks about.
Message to say how sorry I was and shooting famous cinematographers. I'd light up a couple usually when I was working, because I'm so nervous when I'm shooting to get the job done. When I was shooting, or just stupid behavior. When I'm shooting.
Event happened.
You met
What
with,
are the
sorry,
What other questions do you have other than that?
you met with I'm afraid I forget her name in the moment, but you met with her family in the
Helena.
day.
Yes,
Her
I
name
met
is
with her
Helena. If you're spending this much time waiting for us, you should
You don't
know
know her name.
Exactly. Know her name. Know her name. Her name is Helena. Say her name. He shot her, and you don't even know her name.
Her name is Helena.
Helena Hutchins. I met with her husband Matthew and her son. Yeah, that's right.
And how did that meeting go?
I wouldn't know how to characterize it.
Click with, I don't know what words to use today, but I think click with them.
They're mortified.
You guys, you know what?
Would you-
No details.
But do me a favor. I'm gonna answer the question.
Looking very much like Calibus here.
Well, I appreciate that he was probably very upset.
The guy is overwhelmed with grief. This is something that there are incidental.
And then when he gets not overwhelmed with grief, he's going to sue the crap out of me, right?
Accidents on film sets from time to time, but nothing like this. This is a 1 in a trillion episode.
I want to apologize. I'm sorry that Vladimir Putin has effed with me again. Trump is alone. Trump is an anomaly. Trump is a maniac. I don't wake up and look in the mirror and go, oh, there he is. Ooh, you.
And he just happened to be the goofball who was on the shooting end of the gun.
He is in shock. He has a 9-year-old son.
Yeah, exactly.
We are, in constant contact with him.
Would you ever work on another film set that involves firearms of that nature?
Well, that's up to Hollywood.
I couldn't answer that question. I really don't have any. I have no sense of it at all. I do know that an ongoing effort to limit the use of firearms on film sets is something I'm extremely interested in. I'm not an expert in this field.
He just shoots people.
So whatever other people decide is the best way to go in terms of protecting people's safety on film sets, I'm all in favor of, and I will cooperate with that in any way that I can.
Do you think production will start up again on
No,
that?
I doubt it.
It will, because he's trying to get it to finish the work that Helena Hutchins started.
So just do me a favor, you don't mind? My kids are in the
Look at those crazy Calibus lines he's got there.
car crying.
Because you guys are following
And
them
all I
and
want
they
to do
know.
is
You guys, they know.
Courtesy to you, I came to talk to you. I'm not
Kids
allowed
are crying. How about Helena Hutchins' son? Is he crying?
to comment on the investigation. I talk to the cops every day. I talk to them every day to find out.
They know where you are.
I'm cooperating with them, of course. So my point is that I'm just asking. We sat down as a courtesy now to talk to you. Now, please, would you just not follow us for the rest of this? Just leave us
just
alone.
go home.
We gave
Go
you everything
home.
we could
Thank
possibly
you.
give you, okay?
I gave you everything you possibly could have. Thanks, Alec. You're one hell of a man. So I saw this yesterday, and I taped it with my phone, but luckily they put it up on the internet. So this is here.
And founder and chief instructor. Eric, he is a prop master and founder and chief instructor of Prop Gun Safety LLC.
This guy's Dutch Merrick. He is an armorer, but also a master of prop safety. And he's written books on it and does training. So this guy's an expert in what happened here.
Appreciate you joining us this morning. Just hearing, Gloria's reporting. I mean, industry professionals have said that it's the armorer and the assistant director who has the responsibility to ensure that the prop gun is safe before they are used. Baldwin has been charged. What's your reaction to that, knowing the industry's standards and practices?
Well, it shocked all of us armorers when we heard the story as it unfolded, as the investigation
shocked them. It shocked the armorers. They were shocked.
Should expose what happened on this show. All of the normal rules and processes seems to have been sidestepped to some degree. And
boom, all of them, not one, all of them.
There was a chain of events that, in the class that I teach, we outline about 30 things at least that contributed to this happening. And
boom, 30 things that if just one of those didn't happen, it wouldn't have resulted in this woman getting shot.
Basic procedures were not handled. So it wasn't a surprise that somebody was charged. It's a surprise that more people aren't charged, actually. There were so many.
Boom, there should have been lots of people charged.
Failings that led up to this, because what we do, the way we do it in Hollywood, is inherently safe.
Okay, so then walk us through that, because we keep hearing about the armor and the assistant director who also are facing criminal liability. What other checks and balances should have been done, and by whom?
Well, first and foremost, the producers had an environment that seemed
Alec was a producer
to be chaotic. They had people working extremely long hours, 14-hour shoot days, which means you're probably in there for an hour prepping in the morning and an hour wrapping. And a lot of these people most of them lived an hour away. So they're getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a day. The conditions.
So they're sleep deprived.
Were so bad that the camera department walked off that very morning. The biggest.
Boom. We knew about that, right? And there were safety concerns, and they weren't paying for their hotels. See, this is all Alec Baldwin's, his narcissism, because he can't get an A-list movie now. He is, still desperate to work in Hollywood, and so he had to produce his own movie. It's a $5 million budget, shoestring budget, because he still wants to make movies, and he's been doing this for a while, crappy movies. And, he's no longer, he's jumped the shark. And you see this with, like, Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson, and, they'll just appear in anything that wants them as they get older. And because of that, they cut corners. And this is the official story. This is what they're saying kind of happened. And now, a woman is dead.
Biggest smoking gun, if you will, is where did all this live ammunition come from? The investigators turned up more than 25 live cartridges scattered in different places on the set, on working carts, one even in Baldwin's own bandolier. He was wearing live ammo on his person and didn't know it.
He didn't know it. He had a live round in his bandoliero, and he didn't even know it.
Recipe for disaster was set long before this accident happened.
The DA in this case, we heard her saying, look, there's a lot of people who are responsible, but also the actor should have double-checked this prop gun, even if, Alec Baldwin was told, I think the gun was handed to him by David Halls, who is the assistant,
Alec threw David Halls under the bus early on.
Assistant director, and Rust.
It was a cold gun. David Halls said it was a cold gun. What am I going to do? I was listening to David Halls, and he said it was a cold gun. Hilaria
said that the gun was cold and safe. So should Alec Baldwin have double-checked?
Well, there's a few things to unpack here. First of all, you mentioned Dave Halls, the first AD, who never should have inserted himself in the process between the armorer and the actor. We consider that a sacred relationship. An armorer hands a gun directly to an actor, and the actor should only accept a gun from the armorer, and that's under the...
So Alex should not have accepted the gun from Dave Halls. And he could have double-checked it himself. Because, but that's what they're saying. The armorer had 2 jobs. And she was young and, unsafe and, whatever. They got her cheaply. And she had another job, and she wasn't there to hand the gun to Alec. And this guy handed him a loaded gun for some reason. How how a live round even got in there. I mean, just think about how all the, you know, like how unsafe this is. And Alec could have checked the gun. An actor said that even after the armorer hands him a gun, they check the gun. It's stuff that Nicolas Cage said and other people. And so, you know, this is where Alec Baldwin's screwed. Whatever, you know, I mean, this is where he's always going to be. Whether he goes to jail or not, this act of taking a gun not from the armorer, not checking it, and being a producer over this mess that was led up to it, right?
Supervision of the first AD. They can observe it. But why Dave Halls was there in the first place shouldn't have ever happened. So ultimately, the actor is holding the gun. So if something goes wrong in the middle of a scene, for example, it's their finger on the trigger and it's their final decision. But the steps that led up to this actor who's done this for 35 or 40 years, putting his trust in the crew around him to hand him something that's safe. And when they tell him it's safe, it is. It turns out it wasn't, and it had a live round in it. That's never happened in the history of Hollywood.
Boom. And Hollywood's such a great place. And so this is bad for Alec, you know, and bad for the armorer and everybody else that they're, you know, going after here. Some people are going to serve some jail time, and Alec may be one of them. Okay, so this falls under the category, this story, of are you boop-ing me, right? You got to be boop-ing me because, you know, it's just a complete, like this guy's so gone mentally, right? So let's start here. Here he is with Gavin Newsom about the surveying the damage from the, I guess what are they having, floods there? So if it's not fire, it's floods. Like it's getting biblical in California. But here it is. They're going to ask him about this.
You know, I will answer the question, but here's the deal.
Here's the deal. He gets snippy about it.
You know, what quite frankly bugs me is that we have a serious problem here we're talking about. We're talking about what's going on, and the American people don't quite understand.
So, is it not serious? Is classified documents not serious, right? When Trump had them, they were pretty serious. But again, it's not just the hypocrisy and all the, you know, all of it. It's just how bad he is at being a human being right now. Like he's not a competent, functioning human being. He's lost and clueless.
I understand why you don't ask me questions about that. But having said that, what's your question?
So, you know, they're not asking him questions about the flooding and real things that are going on. They're only concerned about this, you know, silly little thing about classified documents. And, you know, he's snippy about it.
Not reveal the existence of the documents back in November before the midterm.
Hang on, okay? Look, as we found a handful of documents were filed in the wrong place. We immediately turned them over to the archives and the Justice Department. We're fully cooperating, looking forward to getting this resolved quickly. I think you're going to find there's nothing there. I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do. It's exactly what we're doing.
He has no regrets. He's reading something here, and he said he has no regrets.
Forward to getting this resolved quickly. I think you're going to find there's nothing there. I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do.
He doesn't have regrets of following what lawyers have told him to do. You know, what do you mean you have no regrets? Those aren't the right words. Now, sometimes I'll say the wrong word. You know, when you speak a lot doing these things, I mean, sometimes I catch it. Most of the times I catch it, and I usually catch it when I'm doing the editing. And so I don't care about stuff like that. I'll mock it. I'll make fun of it. But people make mistakes. It's natural, right? You know, I do it. Everyone does it. If you substitute a reasonable word, a similar word to the word that you're actually wanting to say, that happens to people in public and, you know, these other things, but just in life, right? When you're having conversations. And so, I don't get all nitpicky about that in life. I'll make fun of it here, but I don't care about it. But he says, you have no regrets. That's a concept. Like, what does that mean? Like, that's not, he's not using the wrong word. He's got the wrong, idea. The idea that he has no regrets. Why would you not have any regrets? You mishandled classified documents, but he says you have no regrets of following what the lawyers had to say. Let's play it again. Why would you have that? Like, well, why would regrets be even a thing in this? Regrets aren't a part of it. Like, what? Like, you have no regrets following what the lawyers had to say?
It's resolved quickly. I think you're going to find there's nothing there. I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do. It's exactly.
You have no regrets? You could say I have no suspicion, or I mean, I don't even know what he's trying to say there. And that's where it's not like, usually when somebody uses the wrong words or wrong word, you kind of know what they're trying to say, right? You have no regrets in following what the lawyers have to say. Well, regrets would come afterwards. Right now, you're following what the lawyers are telling you to do. You could say something like, I have no qualms, I have no beef, I have no suspicion, I have no, I'm following what they're telling me to do. I believe in what they're saying, is what he should be saying. Yeah, I'm doing what the lawyers advised me, and I agree with it, whatever. No regrets. And this is where his brain is just gone, right?
Exactly what we're doing. There's no there. Thank you. All right.
There's no there. And he turns around. There's this doofus, Gavin Newsom. But he just sucks at being a president. Like, he's just not good. There's a time where Reagan was senile, and they hid him away. For the last couple of years, he had Alzheimer's. And, they haven't done that with JoJo Magooe, but they're just not reporting on it. Because I'm going to get to something with Morning Joe. This is building. But let's go to the Saturday Night Live first. So this is Audrey Plaza, who's a creepy individual. I did I showed this thing with her on the whatever kind of award show. It was some kind of, like a alternative award show where she did a fake human sacrifice with one of the kids from Stranger Things with a coven of witches, including Sharon Stone and this weird stuff, right? Very strange person. But she's hosting Saturday Night Live, and she's doing her monologue, and apparently she's from Delaware as well.
I was actually voted the most famous person from Delaware. I beat Joe Biden.
Woo!
That's a fact, and he was pissed. He was livid. Look at this video he sent me.
Boom! Look at yeah. This is a good bit here.
Aubrey, you're the most famous person out of Delaware, and there's no question about that. We're just grateful you made it out of White Lotus alive.
Now, why would there be a reaction to that? That was just sad and pathetic. Did he even watch White Lotus? And White Lotus is a weird show. The first season was, definitely pushing the envelope, but the second season was, these things just get grosser and grosser. I mean, it's a well-made thing. HBO makes well-made TV shows, but they're often just pushing the envelope of, like, I don't want to say appropriateness, but just also, just is gross. Like, it's a show about, like this hotel where it's almost like a Love Boat done by HBO, where these guests check in to a hotel, really rich people, and there's, kind of depravity things happening. But JoJo Magooe is just not there. Like, that was a horrible bit by him. He's just clueless. And, they give him these lines and he doesn't deliver them well. He's just getting older and older and more senile. And they're just not acknowledging it, right? And so then I saw this a couple days ago. It goes with this whole, motif here. This is from the Morning Joe.
Today, where we were, we were only 2 weeks removed from the attack of January 6th.
Joe Biden is underestimated by friends, political enemies alike. Like, they just love him on Morning Joe. Mika gushed about him, right? Like, Mika, let's see if I can find that really. I can't find the Mika compilation. There's a compilation of not just Mika, but all these people on MSNBC and CNN gushing about Joe Biden and his accomplishments, right? And this is even worse. Like, I already did this. I put it on pause when I was looking for the Mika thing. So I already watched this once, which sucks for me. So I know what I'm going to say here, and I know what's coming. Usually I watch these things fresh. But when I saw that this was pro-Joe Biden, this is a couple days. This is like 2 days ago, a day and a half ago. Maybe yesterday. This came out yesterday. In the midst of Joe Biden's classified document, debacle, right? They're going to come in and talk about what a great man he is when he's clearly senile And before that, he sucked. Like, he sucked in his prime, and now he's far past his prime.
There was fear, there was chaos, there was layers of extra security, of course, around the inauguration because of that. And Joe Biden was elected by the people who voted for him to sort of steady the
people who voted for him.
Country a bit in the years after Donald Trump.
It really has. It's been a remarkable 2 years. And
remarkable.
And I always think about the fact that, and it's not really talked about.
I think he doesn't understand the word fact because he's going to use it a couple times here inappropriately.
Not that much on TV. The truth is that...
You tell us the truth, Gumby Joe. Gumby Joe, you're the arbiter of truth with your Gumby hairdo, big guy in colossal cursor nose, and your fetal alcohol syndrome eye thing that's going on there.
So many in Obama world underestimated Joe Biden. So many in Clinton world underestimated Joe Biden. A lot of people very close to those former presidents and secretaries of state, so many people close to them would whisper, Joe Biden will not be a good president. The progressive base.
That's what they would whisper? Or they would whisper something more graphic, right? That was great, that show Vice. And by Vice, I mean Veep. She was in the show Veep. Julia Marie-Dreyfus, is that her name? It showed you how they really are. They're cynical. They're vulgar. They've lost all, innocence. I mean, that's how the people in Washington, D.C. are. So they weren't going, oh, he's not going to be a good vice president. They were like rolling their eyes at this senile boop, right? Because he's he's not nearly as good a public speaker as Obama or Clinton or any of them. He's not even as good as Hillary Clinton, right? Like now he's just a babbling old fool, a gaffe magnet, a snoozler, a snoozler, sniffer, groper, right? Who sniffed, just all of it. Who used to sniff, kids' hair and women's hair and, just all the weird stuff he'd do. Just, a complete, on every level, he checks all the boxes, right?
Ace constantly ridiculed him throughout the 2020 campaign, mocked him after Iowa, declared him dead after New Hampshire, said he would never survive. It was over. He was too old. He had lost too many steps. He was going to be sent packing back to Delaware. Then he becomes president really in the worst political...
It was so bad, the way that all these things that were going against him, right? This was, the stuff that happened in the election. I'll get into that more, because I'm going to talk about that more. But the primaries, he was a disaster, right? He was walking off stage, challenging people to push-up contests, talking about, how he had a higher IQ, things he said before he's got caught, all these things. He was a disaster. And everybody knew it. They were laughing at him because, on stage when he had that gaffe with Kamala, and she was laughing at him. Like everybody knew he was senile. They couldn't believe that he was still polling with 20% of the vote, which was, not great, but it was better than anybody else, right? And they were all laughing, and then they were shaking their heads like, how could this... on the debate stage, the other candidates going, how can this senile MNFer be beating us, right? And it wasn't because he was great or he was brilliant. It was because the American people suck and the media sucks, right? And the political process sucks. And they, were rigging this thing for him.
Environment since Abraham Lincoln in 1861, right after riots, right after an attempt to overthrow his presidency.
Come on now.
And everybody said, the nation's too divided. We're not going to get things done. The conservative media world continued, like Trump world and like Donald Trump himself. They kept underestimating him.
That's not what was happening. They were just speaking truth about how a guy who was senile and before that sucked could ever run a presidency when everything was about anti-Trump stuff, right? He had nothing of his own, right? He didn't have his own platform. All they all had was that Trump sucks.
And this is not a paid political advertisement for Joe Biden. This.
Are you sure? Then what is it? Are you doing this on your own volunteer volition, making a complete fool of yourself? And I mean, how embarrassing you are. This is the embarrassment I'm talking about. Like, America is an embarrassment. And, you know, I'm going to get into some of the woke stuff at the end. I want to do a little thing on that. My wife and I are watching a show, and the woke stuff has just gotten so ridiculous. But, you know, let's let him finish here.
This is just reality. What I'm about to tell you are the facts.
He's got the facts. Are you sure? This is MSNBC, Joe. You have the facts. He has the facts. He doesn't know what facts are because even these things are just opinions, right?
This guy, constantly underestimated by his political friends and enemies alike, has been the most successful president in pushing through legislation than any president.
Look at the. That's the photo. Look at this crazy.
President since, I guess, Ronald Reagan.
That's not a fact. If you're saying I guess Ronald Reagan, do you have stats on that? I mean, in terms of the legislation that was passed. So he's saying these are facts. I don't know. I guess Ronald Reagan. That's not facts, Joe. That's, you saying he's been more successful in terms of the amount of legislation or the type of legislation. I mean, that's how you would, that's how it would be proposed, right? And it's all about looting. This legislation is about looting what's left of the American wealth. I said, whoever won the presidency, like, back in 2000 and 1920, whoever won between him and Trump would be in charge of the America's going out of business sale. And they would just, that's all this stuff is. It's just taking what's left of the American empire before it collapses. Maybe there'll be 4 more years of this or whatever. It's just looting what's left of the American wealth. That's, that's where we are in our stage, in our story of the American empire.
Maybe you have to go back to LBJ. And don't take my word for it.
LBJ sucked, right?
After the 2022 elections, remember the red wave elections where Joe Biden was supposed to get wiped out again? His party was going to get destroyed and he was going to be pushed to the side. After the 2022 elections, Newt Gingrich said to Republicans, we have to stop making the same mistake that we keep making about Joe Biden. We see him having problem in a press conference and we cut out that clip and we run it.
It's the whole press conference.
Over and over again, and we convince ourselves he's not up to the task of being.
It's the whole press conference. I've watched him. His whole press conference sucked. There's no good moments. He misreads things. He babbles. He makes mistakes. He just has out and out gaffes. He mumbles. He was just singing happy birthday to a person he forgot her name. And his gaffes are gotten, he has so many gaffes. It's just like, okay, it's good for Republicans and Joe Biden haters, but everyone else is just oblivious to him. They've accepted that this guy has gaffes and he can still be president. Like, it's just, I mean, this is a part of the idiocracy aspect, but it's just what you consider normal, right? It's normal to see your president drool all over himself and act like a fool. Like when he goes and does these European conferences and he goes and does worldwide things, you can see the other politicians like Boris Johnson reacting to him because they're not used to, whatever it is. But they cover it the same way because no one wants to admit there's a senile guy in charge of the strongest military. I mean, he's not really in charge, but that's how it's, people think about it. I mean, the strongest military in history. You got a senile MNFer out there, right? With Crypt Keeper, do that he has, that mullet in the back and just the way he dodders around on stage. And I mean, it's this whole press conference. It's not just little clips. Some things are worse than others, but it's the whole thing. Like, he's not good at any of the speeches, any of it. And people have just accepted that's like, oh, that's just Joe.
President of the United States. And then while we're laughing at him, he beats us. When we're mocking him, he routs us. When we're saying he's not up to being president of the United States, he proves that we're not up to running against him.
So this is not facts. What he's leaving out here is that everything has been about Trump. Well, I'll get into that in a moment. We all know that. This isn't about JoJo Magooe. Nothing is. He is he is the shadow, the guy lurking in the shadows as everyone focuses on Trump. We'll cover that in a moment.
If 2020 wasn't enough, and his legislative accomplishments over the last 2 years aren't enough, you look at 2022. And as Newt Gingrich said, we are treating this guy the same way Democrats treated Ike and Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan was, he had Alzheimer's. Like his son came out and said, yeah, he had Alzheimer's the last 2 years of his presidency, his last 2 years of his second term. They disappeared him. He could not speak. He was, the country was being run by his handlers. Like he was no longer president. Like he was just gone mentally. But they didn't care. They didn't, admit to it. They just hid him away. I don't know about Ike, but that's what they did with Ronald Reagan, right? And it's a good comparison because the difference is they couldn't run Ronald Reagan out there because people would have said, hey, this guy's senile. There was more of a legitimate news media, and the American people were more conscious, at least the ones, the majority of them. But this guy is clearly senile, and the media and everyone else ignores it. And it's, it's not just his senility. He sucked before, right? I mean, he's losing his mental capacity. He's, really old, and he's been breaking down. I mean, he shouldn't have been elected. They should have, said this guy's senile in the beginning. They could have done that in the media and taken care of this guy, but they didn't for whatever reason. They covered for him. They carried his water like Joe, embarrassingly so, like Gumby Joe is doing right now. I mean, this is pathetic. What
they mocked him. They ridiculed him. They said they had dementia. They were too old. I remember growing up and my mom.
You saw it like he is. Those things are true things. Those are facts.
Mom and dad and my mom's family, they were.
As there is a thing that happens, and it's happened with me, where I'm not as sharp as I was when I was younger. My brain isn't as sharp as it was. Like I was, I could remember everything, and my brain was quick, and I mean, I was partying and doing things, and I still could, I was still sharper than I am now. But I'm much more mature and wise now, right? Because I'm, less emotional, not as much testosterone. Like there's been positive things from doing the Sahaj Marg cleaning process where a lot of the, negative qualities I had, whatever they were, bitterness and anger and, some of the, the venom or whatever, the negative things that were in my system has been cleaned out. And so I'm a better decider now. Like I make better decisions. I'm more patient. I let processes play out. So there's a thing that happens where you're in that sweet spot where you still have some sharpness to your mind, but you have experience and you've matured into a nice, a more mature, like a wiser person, right? And that's where the presidency should lie. People who are, between the ages of 40 and 60, whatever it is. And then as you get into the, late 60s, 70s, you're just more and more, you're physically not up to the task, right? You have more and more physical problems. You have more and more, mental, like just issues like he has, right? And it catches up to you and you start forgetting about things and you don't care as much either, right? About material life. Like you shouldn't care about this stuff because you're preparing for death. And these older politicians and, people in the Supreme Court or any of these people in positions of power, and they're just holding on to something because once they let it go, they're going to die. They're going to enter the death process. Because people, when they retire, you see how they fall apart. It happened to my dad. It happens to people where they retire and then just everything, they get real old real quickly because they don't have any purpose anymore. They don't really have anything, And JoJo Magooe is way past that. Like he was when he was with Obama. He was good as vice president. He provided comic relief for Obama. He was good at that role. He was the Ed McMahon to Obama's Johnny Carson, right? The sidekick. He was the Robin, right? The idiot Robin who, and that's what the vice president does, right? Dan Quayle was a good one. Vice presidents who, act the fool so the president can look good, right? But, he's not quality now. Like, everybody knows it on some level.
All just dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. And I remember asking my mom about Ike. She goes, Ike just kind of bumbled around. He just played golf. We didn't really do too much. And that was Ike.
Look at Miko's laugh.
He got the country saying that about him. He got Democrats underestimating him, just like Ronald Reagan. And it proved to be a
strategy. You think this is a strategy that JoJo Magooe is out there milking his mental incompetence? You think he's doing this stuff on purpose? You think he's playing the fool? Come on, Joe. Are those your facts you bragged about? Come on, Gumby Joe.
Strength. And Jonathan Lemire.
Look at this girl's smug laugh, and Mika's smug. Like they're so, oh yeah, we're rocking it. He's an absolute joke, and it means America's a joke, right? I mean, the best you could say is that it's completely rigged, or the American people are a joke. Like, the American people are, somehow deluded themselves. I mean, the liberals and I guess some of the independents to accepting this guy, or they just don't care, or whatever it is, right? Apathy, or, they just don't have the ability to perceive what's happening in front of them. But whatever it is, it's not JoJo Magooe's strategy. He didn't strategize this.
We can tick down the list, but again, this isn't me carrying Joe Biden's brief into court. This is what Republicans are saying to themselves. They're whispering and they're saying, we've got to stop.
They're whispering. Look at Mika shaking her head no, but meaning yes, but she's in a defensive position.
Stop underestimating this guy because he's beating our brains out politically.
This guy, come on.
Yeah, he has for mostly of the last 2 years. And let's remember.
Okay, so the thing is, the last 4 years or 6 years now, the center of their universe has been Trump, MSNBC, and CNN. It's not this guy. They didn't love this guy ever. This guy was never their first choice for president. Like, in terms of the many times he ran for president. He ran 3 times for president, and he was never, like, seriously considered. And then they had, like, really a bunch of dopey candidates, and, they rigged it in South Carolina against, he's making it sound like South Carolina, like the primary was, they underestimated him when he said they underestimated him in after Iowa and New Hampshire. He came in 4th and 5th in Iowa and New Hampshire, and he was dead. And, Bernie Sanders had all this support, had all the passion. Bernie Sanders had very passionate voters. And so they openly came out and said, this is Democratic senators, Democratic people for the DNC that were important. And they came on CNN and MSNBC. It was one of the things I couldn't believe. And they said, there's no way Bernie Sanders is going to represent us. They weren't going to have a socialist run against Trump because he would lose. But Bernie Sanders had all the enthusiasm. And so they said, we are going to make sure he doesn't win. Like, they said it on TV. They didn't even hide it. After it came out that Donna Brazile, who was the interim head of the DNC when Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to resign for her incompetence, she came out and said the party was broke and Hillary Clinton bailed us out financially, the Democratic Party. And so we gave her the nomination, and she called Bernie and told him that. So it already happened before, but they did it again, right out in the open. And they didn't even hide it. The media covered it, right? And what they did was Clyburn in South Carolina, very popular Democrat, he gave his support to JoJo Magooe and made sure he won South Carolina, which stopped the bleeding. And then they got Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg to withdraw, to renounce their candidacy, and they were like moderates like JoJo Magooe. They threw their support behind JoJo, and they left Lizzie Warren in, who was running on the same platform as Bernie, and she divided Bernie's vote, and he was able to beat Bernie. But it wasn't because he was politically brilliant and he was acting the fool on purpose. And then from there, they just made it all about Trump. They hid this guy away because of COVID. I mean, just all these things, right? This guy's going to talk about this here.
Remember, he took office not just and 2 weeks after January 6th, when the Capitol behind him still bore the scars from that attack, but also the height of the pandemic. They had to reduce crowds at the inauguration. Barely anyone could be there.
Because he didn't have any support. They didn't have to reduce crowds. Remember, he used to do events where they were in cars. He was like, it was a drive-in movie and they had people parking their cars. Like JoJo Magooe couldn't produce enthusiastic rallies. So they used COVID to hide that away, right? I mean, Trump would have won without COVID. Not that Trump was great. Trump sucked, especially at the end and the way they played him on COVID and the way he walked into it. But, they didn't ever run Joe Biden as a candidate. They hid him away. He was a recluse. He wasn't even coming outside. He did one event a day, and most of those things were on TV. They focused all their attention on Trump. Trump has been the center of their universe, mainstream media's universe, for the past 6 years. And it's all about Trump. They don't talk about this guy. And they talk about Trump 4 or 5 times more than they talk about this guy. It isn't like they think this guy's brilliant. They ran him as, well, he's not Trump. Like, he's better than Trump. Like, at least he's better than Trump. That was his whole campaign, not on his own platform. And, with senility and all these things, I mean, they refused to cover it. They didn't talk about Hunter Biden, right? I mean, he's been a disaster. Hunter Biden is a huge story. It's criminal almost, like traitorous that the media and everyone else didn't, they hid away this story of Hunter Biden's laptop right before the election, which would have cost JoJo Magooe the election. They've been covering for this guy like they're doing here, and his complete, he can't function now, right? He's a joke. He's always been a joke.
This was before the vaccine was widely distributed yet. America was in a very different place than it is right now. And there have been some...
Because you guys made it a different place. There's more hospitalizations and deaths in the last, whatever it is, last couple of months. And you guys aren't making a big deal of it. Like, it's because you manufactured the conditions to where this guy could be elected, senile as he is.
Downs. Last summer, summer of 21, with the Afghanistan withdrawal, did start a bit of a slide for that White House.
You mean when he droned 8 kids and killed them and civilians because he made up some thing about ISIS-K and then stopped talking about them because he wanted to save face in Afghanistan? He murdered children. You guys refused to cover it. And that debacle of war that he supported, he was a part of the whole group, the Bushes and the Obamas and the Clintons and all these people that pushed these wars through, these illegal wars that cost, so much money and killed 1 million Iraqis. And, there were wars of economy based in false evidence that was presented to the UN about weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, about a relationship to the big event that Saddam Hussein and Libya's Gaddafi and these other people, they destroyed their regime change governments. They did regime change, and it was a failure on every level, and they destroyed these countries for no reason other than the military-industrial complex and as a distraction to economic collapse. And he was a part of all that, and then the withdrawal was a joke. And we turned over, $80 billion of weapons and training to the Taliban, who, have now are stronger than ever. Like, it's a complete failure, and he droned kids on the way out, and you guys didn't cover any of that? Is that what you're talking about? This great man here, this wonderful man, this guy who had no malarkey. Like, he had a no malarkey tour. My parents would be in their hundreds if they were still alive. They would be 105, 100, whatever it was, right? I could calculate it, but who cares? But that's how old they were. And it was, no malarkey was a saying like that, it was like for previous generations, it's like an Irish saying. My mom was Irish. That was even, before her generation. And JoJo Magooe had a no malarkey tour. My wife was saying the other day we should have a malarkey meter, right? How much malarkey, like when he lies or whatever. Malarkey is BS. And so, that's what he was running on. How clueless he was. He was supposed to be winning over young people. the Democrats were supposed to win with a wave of young people. And this guy was older than Trump and more clueless. I mean, you just saw it in that Saturday Night Live bit. He just doesn't get it. He's just completely gone, and he's, out of touch. He's been out of touch for years. He's always out of touch. Just a weird guy, right? He doesn't really understand what's going on around him, and even more so as he gets older. And so this is this guy that they're pimping for here.
Hospital, a slide that it has recovered from. And yes, a little hiccup right now about these documents, but most people...
A little hiccup about these documents. Additional classified items found in Biden's Delaware home during Justice Department search, attorney says. That's today. I mean, it's been a complete debacle, right? And this is even, they're covering this here. And so this just today, coming in today.
Revealing more classified information was found at President Biden's Delaware home, taken by the
This is Sunday morning.
Justice Department Friday, after a nearly 13-hour FBI search of the entire property, done at the invitation of the president's legal team.
Okay, so they're finding classified documents all over the place. And for this guy to say this is a little hiccup, are you saying that his losing track of classified documents, storing them in his garage, complete, and to cover Trump the way you've covered him, how embarrassing. Like, how embarrassing it is to just come out and suck like this and be this dumb. Just be like a complete, I'm going to run all my dumb stuff here, my Fred Sanford and my Joe Biden dumb stuff. Like, here are the memes.
Get lost, dummy, 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 dummy. You big cold-blooded dummy. You big dummy.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
And just to be this dumb, like just to come out every day and just suck like this, embarrassing yourself. I mean, how bad it is to just embarrass yourself this way. Like in this guy, carrying water for a guy that anybody who is, aware or alert can see the guy is not up to the task. Would you have this guy drive your kids as a school bus driver? I mean, what what would you think this guy could do if he wasn't president? What job would you give him, right? That he could do competently. The guy can't. He's broken down, and he's president.
People in Biden world and Democrats alike think it's something that, with some time, he'll be able to put behind him. But the record speaks
because you guys won't cover it. You guys won't, make it a scandal. Even Fox News. I mean, just whatever. Even Fox News. Now, I'm gonna end this thing here. The whole thing. I had other things to cover, but this already went on too long. I have another video. Like I said, there's just too much content coming out, because of the delay from YouTube. But both of these videos are going to probably be up today, and then tomorrow I'll make another, whatever it is. But I had a whole thing I want to do on woke culture. It's getting dinner time now. Like I'm editing this, so I'm just going to end this thing here. I had some more I was going to say, but I also have a Journey series thing I just uploaded. So I got all this backed up content, and I'm having Instagram problems, the whole thing, which I'll communicate in future videos. Anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.